All right, let's dive right in. We've got a story for you today that is, well, it's just wild. It's about a pair of shoes. Yeah, shoes that somehow survived decades buried in the ground and ended up solving a historical mystery.
So think about this for a second. How on earth can a pair of shoes identify a president 30 years after he was killed? I mean, it sounds like something out of a movie, right? But that's exactly what we're going to unpack. We're going to see how this ultimate symbol of luxury became the one single clue that gave a man his name back, long after he was erased from history.
Okay, so picture this. We're in Kabul, Afghanistan. The date is June 26, 2008. There's some construction happening near a military base, just a normal day. Until it's not. Workers unearth something truly horrifying. Not one, but two unmarked graves.
And we're not just talking about a couple of bodies here. These were mass graves. You know, a place where multiple people are buried together, usually unidentified. The remains inside were so decomposed, I mean, we're talking decades of decay. There was just no way to tell who these people were. Just a really grim, anonymous final resting place.
But then, in the middle of all this decay and chaos, investigators found something that just didn't make any sense. It was one single item that seemed to have, completely ignored the laws of time.
So, attached to the feet of one of the skeletons was a pair of black boots. And get this, they looked practically brand new. I'm serious, the leather was still gleaming, a little golden buckle on them was still shining, and all the markings were perfectly readable. Imagine that contrast. Everything else is dust and bone, and then there are these perfect shoes.
And it turns out, the craftsmanship on these things was just out of this world. These were not your average off-the-shelf shoes. Oh no. They were custom made by this super exclusive Swiss shoemaker. Their client list? Only about 1,000 of the wealthiest families on the planet. And just listen to what they were made of. The soles, rare blue-horned cowhide from New Zealand. The toe, Brazilian crocodile skin. The top part, African black elephant ear leather. Even the stitching was done with thread that was basically bulletproof grade. I mean, who does that?
The company that made them had this unbelievably bold claim. They said, hey, the polish on our shoes won't fade for 50 years. And if you bury them, the shine will last for a century, 100 years. And here in this grave in 2008, it looked like they were right. That crazy promise actually came true. So, the million-dollar question is, right, who in the world owned a pair of shoes like that? Well, to figure that out, we have to jump into the pretty chaotic history of Afghanistan.
And it's really important to mention how we even know all this. This entire amazing story was pieced together because of the hard work of one man, a retired major named Tariq Mahmoud. He's the one who did all the digging, literally and figuratively, and connected these incredible shoes to a long-lost president.
Okay, so here's how it all went down. The story of these shoes starts with Afghanistan's last king, a guy named Zahir Shah. He was on that exclusive 1,000 family client list. But then, in 1973, his own cousin, Sardar Daoud Khan, overthrows him in a coup. And when Daoud Khan took power, he took everything, including the king's assets, and yup, that very exclusive membership with the Swiss shoemaker. So Daoud Khan becomes the new president, and he gets the shoes.
So this timeline really lays it all out for us. You can see Daoud Khan takes power in 73, but his time at the top was not long. Tragically short, actually. Because just 5 years later, in 1978, another, even more violent revolution erupts. And that event is what set everything in motion, leading right up to that discovery in the grave 30 years later.
And that upheaval has a name, the Saur Revolution. It was an incredibly bloody and brutal moment in the country's history.
So, April 1978, a military coup, backed by communists, storms the presidential palace right in Kabul. And they had one main target in their sights, President Daoud Khan.
What happened next was just a flat-out massacre. President Daoud Khan was brutally murdered. But it wasn't just him. They killed 30 members of his family right alongside him. 30 people.
And the people who took over, their revenge was total. They desecrated his body and then just buried him. Secretly. No ceremony, no marker, nothing. They wanted to erase him. And for 3 decades, it worked. Nobody knew where the body of Afghanistan's first president was.
And that brings us full circle, right back to that mass grave found in 2008, and back to that one single, pristine object they found inside it.
This is what makes this story just so unbelievable. You know, normally when you're trying to identify remains, you look for DNA, maybe dental records, right?
But here, everything was so degraded after 30 years, none of that was an option. The primary method, the secondary method, the backup to the backup method, it all came down to one thing: his shoes.
So here's the bottom line. Because of a shoemaker's crazy 100-year promise, and because this one man was part of that exclusive club, history was literally made. Sardar Dawood Khan was finally identified, not by his face, not by his DNA, but by the indestructible shine on his shoes. Absolutely incredible.
It's just such a wild ending to a 30-year-old mystery. And again, it's a huge testament to dedicated research. We have to give all the credit to Major retired Tariq Mahmood for putting all the pieces of this historical puzzle back together.
And that's a pretty powerful thought to leave you with, isn't it? The very same object that was a symbol of his power and status while he was alive ended up being the key to his identity long after he was dead. It really makes you wonder, how many other secrets, how many other incredible stories like this one are just buried out there, waiting to be found.